and then it's doing it too. So if I'm doing something and I change how I do it because of how I feel and how I'm thinking about it, then if there's something that's missing, that piece of the puzzle will come up and I won't know what I'm seeing. But it's invisible. There's a couple clues there, but it's invisible. And it's because of the pattern. If you see a pattern, that means there's something written about it. And if there's something not written about it, then it's a new discovery. And you just have to keep plugging at it. So, at a certain point in time, I became interested in the religion, and because I cared, I didn't care at first. It depends on what you see and what you're doing while you're doing it, or who you're around. So, like, when I was seeing people changing, I understood that it was impossible. So, like in religion, forgiveness and healing are both the same. They're the same thing. I shouldn't say they're the same thing. They're very closely related in accordance with the Spirit. It can be. They can be related, depending on what the person is doing. But usually you get a freebie in there, something that keeps you from standing before God, and that's the healing that comes about. And I've seen it a lot. I've seen it with my grandmother, and I've seen it with my mother. And that very blessing passed down to me. But it wasn't instant, because I had to look into it. I saw the pattern. I, at the time, didn't understand what I was doing, why I was doing it, because I hadn't developed myself to the point where, you know, and it being automatic, you know, it's an automatic personality response. So you do it without knowing that you're doing it. And changing was just one of those things people cannot do. They have a really hard time doing it. And it really takes something dramatic to make people change. Something traumatic, I should say. But the religion thing was really hard to figure out. You can say that I haven't figured out, but I'm an INTJ. Thinking is my thing. I think when I'm not thinking, I think when I'm thinking. And if I take a break from thinking, it's to think. There's no way around it. That's who I am. It's where I'm happy. I'm happy to do it. And everybody has their specialized skills. And that is my specialized skill. And we're not known to be liars. We're too scientific for that. We are into truth, and we are into figuring things out. This is how it is. And if an INTJ says something, it's because it is that way. You know? Unless there's just like a lot of baloney going on. There's one exception to the rule, and that's how other people are treating the INTJ. Because an INTJ could be treated so bad that the circumstances won't allow for logical thinking. It then has to become switched to the secondary, or the third function, which is feeling. So And that's just primeval barbarianism. So if I say I figured it out, it's because I did figure it out. And I came to a logical conclusion based on future, based on intuition. And the intuition function, if developed, is quite extraordinary, because that means that you can see that invisible piece to the puzzle. So, you know, you have to see something first to realize it's there, see something that has a pattern to it, because that's the primary drive of an INTJ. Oh, I discovered something. What is it? And then the questions come out and the search goes. And I did that. I kept doing that. And the intuition part, because there are so many inadequacies in the Bible, the Bible does not explain why somebody did something they did, or how they did what they did. But to look at them from my viewpoint, they were a highly developed INTJ, all the same personality type. With a high intuition, very highly developed intuition and feeling. It's kind of funny how people use this little parking lot as a drive to go between two roads. Just cracks me up. I could sit here and watch people go by all day. Not really, but, you know, I got other things to do. And so as the search goes on, the intuition kicks in, and it tells you there's something there, and you can't see it. That acquired savantism from the trauma kicks in, and point something out for you. And it's not without study, you know, you get curious. I can say yes, it is also without study, because it's just a matter of the pattern. The pattern is what sets everything in motion. And you have to drive it to its conclusion. This is going to be one project that is going to last a lifetime. And some projects, doesn't matter if they're finished or not. It's just a matter that you worked on them. And if you come to a conclusion, you know you came to the conclusion. And part of that future telling goes into it too, and the intuition, because then you're able to see what's not there. And drive to it. And a lot of people can't do that. I don't even know other INTJs that have ever been able to do it if they were interested. But there's conclusions to things, and then there's fantasy. Fantasy things are cool, but, you know, that's not the driving force. The scientific facts, the facts. It's always the facts, not the, you know, so if anybody says that an INTJ is just plowing or looking into the future, that a good possibility of something that is going to be utopian is not true. There has to be facts behind it. an INTJ won't look at it if there's not facts behind it. Sure, they're good at fantasizing and about different things and stuff like that, but that's not where an INTJ is. The INTJ is trying to figure something out, if they can figure it out. And the more challenging, the better. And but I figured out religion. There's fake religion. All religion, for the most part, is fake. Okay, let me take that back. Is so incomplete, you cannot come to a conclusion. That is the problem that I had with the Bible. It is so incomplete that I couldn't come to definite conclusions. And when I came to the point where I couldn't go further and I needed help. So there is something that's beyond the human mind there that does come and help. But it won't do it unless you put your mind to it, to do it. And you have to come to the logical conclusion. So if you're looking for salvation, is there salvation? So you're the test subject, I would be the test subject, and that's what I'm going to do, because I want to know if it's really true or not. So the intuition kicks in, along with whatever else is there to bring that about. And there has to be something else there, too, because it's meeting in the middle, not just a one-sided viewpoint. But when you see enough happening around you to where you see somebody you know is an alcoholic, you know they drink, you know they can't give it up, and they go before God and that is taken away from them and they never drink again after that, that is something without withdrawals or any of that. That is a miracle to me, because people just can't change like that. They're addicted, their body is addicted to it, their mind is addicted to it. That is how they cope with life, you know. They're not just going to stop what they're doing unless they have a traumatic experience. So they're going to have that traumatic experience, and it's going to come about a change from it. It's like the blind man. It's what you tell yourself about your circumstances. You don't want to see it coming, then your mind might make you blind because you had to go through it, because it was a trauma. But there wouldn't be a reason for you to ever be blind, because nothing really happened to you. And you might have to live in blindness for a while because you told yourself that. That's what you made yourself believe. And that individual might go and get put in those same circumstances again to figure out that he lied to himself. Who was it? Jonah, that thought about the lying vanities. What we tell ourselves isn't always true. But it takes getting put into a situation, a trauma of some kind, that makes you realize that your own mind can play tricks on you. And it's like, let's see, Isaiah, hope against hope. The real world isn't what we think it is. Not if people can do that. Or there has to be an outside source that is helping us to do that. But I think it's a 50-50 thing. I think it's what we believe, and I think it's what something meets us halfway on that. But, you know, you have to come to the logical conclusion with the Bible. Is there salvation? How do I find out? So you investigate, and if you systematically investigate, then you're going to ask, why am I supposed to be saved? And they'll try to get you saved. Every church will. But who is right? So you have to come to the natural conclusion that, how do you know which is the right church? So you have to investigate. And not one can pull a shred of evidence. And you learn that because you're going, and there's a difference between coincidence and miracles. People try to make coincidences look like miracles, and they're not so coincidental, because people talk. And eager pastor to make his place grow, especially in the evangelical system, will use every trick in the book. It's, you know, they're taught by you know, and this is all the natural process of thought, because they're taught by a school. They don't have any personal experience, except maybe one. And for some reason, there's certain things that happen to individuals as they pass this along, and I'm not sure what that thing is, but I do know that the pulpit call is a call for learning from God, and most people that go up there are seriously going to God because they want to learn. I mean, they see what other people are doing, and they've seen people change the same way, and they come to the same conclusions, and they just don't talk to each other to know it. But in the natural process of thinking, you're going to come to discover these things because this is what you're also doing. And the doing part is a learned skill for an INTJ. Especially if you haven't made it up far enough just to have a desk job. Because they will bypass an INTJ easy, but they don't understand the strengths of an INTJ to use them. That's the bad quality about this world, and the amount of personalities that are in the world, like an INTJ, was maybe 1%, 1.5%. But it's kind of funny, like, the first four personalities, the first four rarest personalities are the people that are closest to me. Because I understand them the best. So I have one of each personality next to me. It's kind of funny, I think, when I discovered that, because I had them all take the test too. They all thought it was uncanny that they were reading attributes about themselves, but at the same time they would find something that wasn't quite right. So each personality type's a little different. I mean, they can be a little different from each other. Like mine is very different from other INTJs, because I have that developed feeling, that developed intuition. And but when you see them bickering between each other and blaming each other and throwing ridicule on each other, the churches and the denominations and all that, you kind of come to the conclusion that they don't know what they're talking about. Because if they did, they wouldn't be arguing amongst each other. So the very differences in the ridicule is the human psyche. And you really have to get away from that in order to come to the proper conclusions about things. Because people that do that are not right enough in their own heads to make a logical conclusion about anything. So, and then that's the stumbling block. How do you get beyond that point if you don't know anyone that really knows? You see the stuff, so you have to come to the conclusion that everybody that goes to church believes in that church because something happened to them. There's enough people there that something has happened with them. But why are those things happening? And it's not just exclusive to the evangelical church. It's it goes into the other ones too, to some degree. So the natural conclusion would be, because of what Jesus Christ said, your faith has made you well. You can have faith. If you have faith in God, then that can happen. If you don't have faith in God, that definitely won't happen. But I've seen it happen. That's lots. And people, mean, nasty people that you wouldn't want to ever be around. They would drive you away, change, and be actually a pretty loving individual. It's hard to believe, because I think even when I was trying to quit swearing, you know, you put the quarter in the jar, somebody slaps you up across the face, you can work out deals with people that if they swear, you know, because it's so automatic. And you're thinking that maybe if you put some thought process behind it, it's going to change, and it doesn't, because the hate is there. And if you have that kind of hate, obviously it's God that changes it, because normal people cannot change that part of them. There has to be something more to them in order for that to change. And you come across that stumbling stone. Well, who's telling the truth? So you have to actually put some faith in God to do that for you, because the stumbling stone is there. You can't get around it, because it's so incomplete. It doesn't explain it. It just explains that there's a God, and if you believe, this will happen. But I think it depends on the person's trauma in their life too, to how that change comes about. And so the only way to get around that stumbling block is you have to believe in something that is more than you are. And that is the truth, and it does come about exactly that way. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's something else there. From what I have seen, there are things that are there you can't see. There's no other explanation for it, because even my own mind cannot logically define what takes place. I know I have my own intuition about things, and I can see those pieces of the puzzle, but this isn't me. I would know if it was me. Because I would see that invisible piece to the puzzle. It's more like, who else is there? And from what I have seen, that's what it came out to, because it's not a magic like that. I mean, there is a magic there, but it's not like that. It's someone else that's there. You might think I'm crazy or whatever, and this is a delusion of my INTJ, but it's not fact. But it's that entity that gets you past it, not anything that you can study, do, figure out to see. And I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true, because I studied it for all my whole life. The conclusion to it all, because of the stumbling stones and the help that I had to have to figure it out, I had to admit that I was too stupid to figure it out. And that is just an impossibility for an INTJ to have to do. But to know, you have to admit that. That your inadequacy to solve it is just that. It's an inadequacy. You can't. It's incomplete to solve, logically. You can't see it. But I thought it was pretty phenomenal to see things that you were not supposed to be able to see in order to come up with a conclusion. But it's not until after that stumbling stone is removed, because it's the log in the eye, basically. You have to remove the log out of your eye. You might see a twig in somebody else's eye easier than you would see the log in your own eye, and that gets in the way of your vision and what you're looking at, because everybody has been reading an incomplete book that has sudden abruptions in the timelines, has abruptions in how to do it, so it can't be duplicated. It's not until you put the human element into it. If you put the human element into it, the patterns of the personalities, then you can duplicate those things, because you're putting yourself in their shoes, because this is what you want to accomplish. So you have to logically come up with the same conclusions that those people have, so you could ask in prayer the same things that they did and how they did it, because the wording is important.